Oni-Eseleh, and it's my pleasure once again to bring a guest to this space. And the guest today is someone who is very special to me. I happen to know her well, and she is also someone who I am very proud of because she does a tremendous amount of work. And very soon, you will all have an opportunity to hear what she does. I am speaking of Miss Julianah Abimbola Ogundimu, who is a Master CASAC-G and works as a team leader and Opioid Disorder System Specialist in Oracle Ulster County Sheriff's Office in Ulster County, New York. She's also an adjunct professor in the Department of Criminal Justice and Human Services also in New York, and also is an instructor at Dutchess Community College, also in Poughkeepsie, New York. And she is someone, she also works at, I think, in Turning Point, which is a drug and alcohol rehabilitation center, also in New York. And very soon, I'm going to be asking her where she has the time to do anything else, even the time to come here and meet with me. She is a social work colleague with a master's degree in social work, which she obtained from Adelphi University, and also has an MBA from Delta State University in Nigeria, plus a postgraduate diploma in management, also from Delta State University in Nigeria, and also has a higher national diploma, which in Nigeria is generally called HND, from the Lagos State Polytechnic. You can already tell by now that, like me, I hope I can say, but I know I'm a very proud Nigerian, and I hope I can say that you're a very proud Nigerian as well. So welcome, Ms. Ogundimu.
Thank you, sir.
So how are you doing today?
Well, I'm good. I'm very grateful to be able to be here today and be able to reflect on life's journey.
Yeah, it is actually my pleasure to host you. And so I am going to just come out of the gate and ask you, with all of these things that you do, where do you get the time to rest, or do you not rest?
I do rest, and just to update, I do not instruct anymore at Dutchess Community College.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm trying to slow down, but I try to have a healthy work-life balance, and most of it, because it's something I'm passionate about, it doesn't come too hard and too stressful.
I'm happy that you're saying that. In other words, you're trying to practice what we preach. Right? So it's a good thing when you can slow down and focus on some self-care. So I introduced you as a Master CASAC-G. What is that, and how does a person become one?
So I have certification as a credentialed drug and alcohol counselor through the New York State OASIS, which is Office of Support and Services for Individuals that struggle with substance use. So if you have a master's degree, you do want to apply and get a master certification as a credentialed drug and alcohol counselor, and also add on to it other certification, which is also I also specialize in gambling disorder, which is something that is coming up, gambling use disorder, in terms of the individuals that have both co-occurring disorder in terms of substance use.
Oh, you have an extensive amount of experience in addiction counseling. And so what drew you to that line of practice?
I think a lot of it comes from passion, care about individuals, and also not understanding what you're experiencing, and being able to help reduce stigma in terms of individuals that struggle with substance use, understanding that a lot of it is not their fault. I look at it as a disease concept, just at a medical aspect of looking at any disease, and that is where the thinking starts to change and you're able to get help.
I like the fact that you have just started by talking about looking at it as a disease, which it really is. But the tendency often is for people to look at addictions as a failing because it's perceived by so many as a sign of weakness. Therefore, if someone is addicted, it's a failing, and there isn't often that regard for it as a disease. When did you begin to think of it as a disease? Because I do not know that in the culture that you and I come from, that's
Yes,
the way it's perceived.
yes. Education makes a difference. Information is very powerful. And that is where your thinking starts to change in that, how can you really help an individual to get help? And understanding is what brings clarity and openness. Over the years, there have been a lot of stigma in terms of the way individuals look at substance use, especially in regards to the consequences, the negative consequences, which which always should bring out the individual as someone that is negative, is bad, the negative connotation. But understanding what the disease is enables the person to get help and live a good life, a clean and sober and healthy life.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. So why did you, even in studying addictions, why did you think that gambling was an area that you also wanted to develop a specialty?
It was very funny. I was in a meeting with the Mid-Otsane Gambling Addiction Group, and I was quite interested to see the correlation how you find individuals have alcohol use disorder, also having gambling use disorder, and this kind of correlate in terms of they occur almost together. Someone that is drinking is also gambling. So that's how I developed the interest, and I attended a few of their conferences, and I see the bigger picture in terms of having a total care for an individual, letting them understand why do you do what you do and how can you get help. I think that is where the key information lies.
That is crucial because if you even think of society generally and think about how much money casinos probably make with people gambling all the time, you are not suggesting that everyone who goes to gamble, please make a distinction, I think for all of our purposes, make a distinction between someone who goes to gamble, maybe casually, and someone who's addicted to gambling.
Absolutely, there's a difference. Individuals gamble for leisure, for um, there's also gaming as well. There are the different things you can do to relax and hobby. But individuals that struggle with alcohol use disorder is evidently proven that majority of them also struggle with gambling use disorder because whilst you're gambling and you're an you have alcohol use disorder, you're also drinking. So they kind of walk hand in hand. Sometimes it does not. That's why the assessment is very important to see where the person at and being able to give the right help, counseling, professional help the person deserves.
I don't know if you're aware, but I just recently developed a course on how to cope with depression, which is why you see what you see once you look at my background. And one of the things that I was talking today on my Instagram broadcast was substance-induced depression. And so I would imagine that for all of these people that you see that you work with, whether it's with gambling addiction or with alcohol and other substance addiction, you also do see a remarkable degree of depression.
Definitely we see mental health and substance use work together. Substance use is always a coping mechanism for mental health. When individuals have defined mental health, mostly you see substance being used as a coping mechanism, especially when you talk about depression, you find people that have alcohol use disorder, having depression, just trying to fix it, trying to find a way to fix it. And a lot of the times, that is not something that we're able to control. So you find it co-occurring together, both substance and mental health.
Yeah, that's a significant thing to always remember because, of course, there is that substance-induced depression, and also people who try to use substances to medicate themselves through the depression, often tend also to make it worse. So your admonition that there is need for professional help when these symptoms are there is very significant. So what does your job at Ulster County Sheriff Department consist of?
Yes, my job um, at the Ulster County Sheriff's Office, I work with a team called Opioid Response as County Law Enforcement, called Oracle. It's a combination of both civilians and law enforcement officers. It's a crisis intervention group. So what I do is I will respond to overdose, fatal and non-fatal overdose in Ulster County. In the last year, we've seen intentional overdose, unintentional overdose, which is an after effect of post-COVID. You find increase in mental health over the years since we had COVID. So you find over, things are not really the way it is. So how do you respond? We respond to overdose reports. So we collaborate with a lot of police department, all the police department in Ulster County. We have an Oracle liaison in each of this department so when we have an overdose happening in any area in Ulster County, we get a report and we respond in it. I work with a great team of law enforcement staff, peer recovery staff, CASAC, and we work together to reach out to that individual and make sure the person get the help that they need. This help could be peer services. It could be taking the person into a substance use treatment program. It could be, just talking to the person. There's so many things we can do. This program collaborates with a lot of services in and out of Ulster County to make sure that communities in Ulster County are able to get the help they need. Over the years, we had a very high number of overdose, and with this, all the strategies that's come in place, has helped to reduce to the numbers to a very low level.
That is a great deal of work. But do you, first of all, I find it interesting that you work with law enforcement, so you're in the same space every day. And we know the history of law enforcement with society. But I also find it interesting that Oracle, I don't know much about it, but I know just a little bit, that there is embedded in their work, in the law enforcement people, the police officers the sheriff, what do you call them, deputy sheriffs, who work in Oracle. It just appears that there is a certain level or a high level of compassion that drives their work. Compassionate law enforcement people who are working every day to actually save the community from death and dying. So is that an apt way to describe those people that you work with?
Yes, it is. And I think it's leadership. It comes from leadership. We have a great sheriff in Ulster County, Sheriff Juan Figueroa, who is is an exceptional leader that is very involved in the community and wants the community to do better. That is how it flows down. It's always leadership by example. Apart from that, I have a great, leadership that I report to. I report to a lieutenant and I also report to Juanita Hotchkiss, who are very excellent support to this program. So that reflects on this team itself. So we've able to, over the years, there have been a lot of conversation, a paradigm shift in the way police department respond. And this collaboration between civilians and law enforcement has really been very productive. Is now a model that is studied to see how this model can be copied in other areas we were given the award by the, for the Best Rural Development Program, which has helped us to other agencies in and out of New York is copying that same model to see how they can respond better to their community needs, not only in terms of substance use, but other social problems that are coming up, so that, when nobody's working in isolation, we are able to navigate and help our communities do better.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that, about the work that you and Sheriff Figueroa and your team do, is also one of the things interesting about it is that we're not talking about law enforcement people that are judging society and judging people that are addicted to something. We are talking about law enforcement people that are actually trying to save them, who also recognize that to do that work effectively, they need social work. And so you are a really great example of social work and law enforcement recognizing the value of each other and working together as well as you do, which is why your team and you are winning so many awards.
Absolutely. We won so many awards because if we don't change the way we think, we have to change the way we think to help to better meet our community needs. And to me, that is so important. Because like if somebody would tell me I'm going to be working in a sheriff's office or law enforcement some years ago, I would have said you're joking. But I've seen that is the best. This is the best part of my experience working, because I have seen transformation. I have seen, you know, police department, police officers understanding how, what substance use is, going to school. We have CASAC as police officers that work with us. And we're also involved in the Ulster County Jail as well, just to we're involved with corrections. There's so many good programs, very, life-changing programs that the sheriff is bringing into Ulster County. And I think, it is really a very big difference in our community, and the community is very receptive. They're very open towards it, and it's working. It's a collaboration.
Right. So, well, I'm going to ask you this question because it's something that I think about often when I see people who work in the area of substance misuse, the area of addictions. Um, have you found that it is actually possible to prevent substance misuse? And if so, how can we achieve that? Or why haven't we been able to in
It's
all of
interesting.
these decades?
It's interesting. It's because of the stigma. Unfortunately, the thing that is taking us out from that help is the stigma and the negativity notations in around substance use. The first thing is to understand your history. When you understand the history from your father's side, from your mother's side, if you see alcohol or opioids, there is the genetic issue is that you have a risk of having substance use disorder. That is the first information. That's where the denial starts to loosen out. Understanding your history, your medical history. What is the disease that are in your father's side? What is the disease that are in your mother's side? That will give you an idea. How can I now prevent it? You can have your father being an alcoholic, and we also have to look at the cultural perspective, how we see this disease. Is it recreational? Is it medical disease? That is where the thinking start to change. That is actually the breakthrough in terms of understanding what I need to prevent, what I need to know, and how can I live a good life.
I am. That's something that I want to underscore. The fact that substance use addiction actually has a genetic basis, right? So that people who know their history, and I think that that's a lesson that everybody needs to hear. People who understand their family history and know that substance that addiction is, it exists in their history, need to also understand that it can be more prone to becoming addicted than people who don't have that history. Therefore, it's better for them not to do it, not to begin to use. Um, and I wish that's a lesson that can be spread to young people. And so that speaks then to the value of education in preventing substance misuse. Does your office engage in education as well, or it is
Yes.
just prevention?
That is just today now. We had the Juneteenth event. I'm just coming back. We had the Juneteenth event. We do a lot of community events, opioid awareness, opioid substance use awareness, education, harm reduction materials in and out, just to make sure that people understand how they can live a good life, a healthy life. And also being there. If somebody has an overdose, how do you prevent the person from dying? So the use of Narcan and naloxone has really helped to reduce deaths in New York State. And so we are one of the biggest provider of Narcan in Ulster County. Over last year, we give out over 4,000 Narcan to the whole community. And we just believe that everybody should have it. Everybody should be able to know how to use it. You could be in a situation where, you have somebody overdose and you're not able to save the person's life because you don't have a Narcan. So it is very big. We are very big in the community. We do from faith mission to community events, pride, any type of event, we will be there to give that awareness.
Not only in the society, but also in the one that you and I come from, the stigma is really big against people who are addicted to substances, often just alcohol. So how do you think that stigma is spread, and how can it be stopped other than through education?
Stigma is fed and is increased by lack of knowledge, unfortunately. And a lot of it has to do with the way we think, the way we think. Facts, understanding facts and non-facts. That changes how we look at stigma in any form, in any area. If you have biases, we grow up with different morals, different values, different bias in regards to different areas of life. And that understanding kind of stay with us, grow with us, become big in our head. And when we see someone that has substance use, why can't this person just stop? It is so, we have to understand that this is a disease, just as somebody have high blood pressure, somebody have hypertension, or somebody have diabetes. Why can't they just stop? So understanding what the medical concept is in terms of substance use, open our mind to understanding what stigma has done in terms of harm. We find a lot of people that have really died because they refuse to get help because of what will people say. What will people say is one of the things that is very, culturally inclined in terms of, I've seen individuals that have had substance use, they will not come up for get help. Even, people of my color, because of the fact that, like for a man, I'm the head of the family. I don't want people to think I'm weak. It's not weakness, so getting help is getting help. Whatever type of help you need to get better, in whether be in any disease, in any aspect of your life, is what needs to happen.
Right. So you just said before that if someone had told you just a few years ago that you were going to be engaged in working in the sheriff's office, you would not believe it. I do not know if you always knew that you are going to be working in addictions either. And so, go ahead.
I grew up in the church, right? My father was what would I call a church-aholic. my father, you have to go to church. So a lot of the skills I know, a lot of the skill set, the strength I have, I actually learned it in the church, but I did not know in terms of the educational value of it. So I will say that this journey really started from the church. I'm not gonna lie. Being able to care for people, being able to help people, understanding my journey in life and where I am now. I am in the place that I need to be at this point. And living your dream, self-actualization is where I am in terms of understanding, you know, the job I do, how it affects humanity, how we can change a person's destiny, a person's purpose, for the person to live a fulfilling life.
What you just said actually is also important. You said you grew up in the church. And so what you're doing is actually helping and fulfilling your mission as a Christian. But we also know that the church is largely responsible for some of the stigma because the church actually pushes and is very critical of people who use substances. So how did you really go against that?
I never really, the only thing we can show to anyone in life is love. If you don't show love, no matter who you are, no matter what religion or, anything you do, you don't show love to a person, it defeats the purpose. So I will say that everything we have is created for our own use. The medication, the plants, the flowers, everything you have is created for us to live a healthy and good life. We've all have different upbringing in terms of what has been fed to us, how we think, and we really need to understand what is the right thing to do as a person. That is, asking yourself, what would God do in this kind of situation? I'm not here to bring up any taboo conversation, but I also want to know that we have gone to so many churches in the last couple of years to train NICAN, to educate about mental health, to educate about substance use, and it's amazing. It's really amazing results. So it's just trying to bridge the gap. Information is so important. How we perceive information, our upbringing, and what this information has done to us.
I'm happy to hear that because the church has not been kind to people who we consider to be less than us and imperfect. And so I am happy to hear that you are engaging the church in this work. And so please continue to do that. I think it's important.
We
And
collaborate
so,
a lot of community programs, to bring awareness, mental health, substance use, and giving them opportunity resources where they can get up. And I've seen even trauma, a lot of trauma that's occurred, and this has been really important, especially the young generation. They ask the questions. They want to know why. Why are you telling me to do this? So information and education brings a lot of difference to our thought.
right. So stepping away from the professional role that you occupy and all the work that you do there, how has this work changed you as an addictions specialist? And with the specialty that you also really have very strongly, which is gambling, and all of this work that you do, the opioid and everything that's actually saving the lives of people. How has this work changed you as a person?
It has made me more humble. Three things I would say to myself and say to my team. I want to remain humble, I want to remain open, and I want to remain teachable. This is I call it to my team as a calling. This is not a job, it's a calling. And if you are not called to do this job, you are just wasting your time. I always do this introduction when I'm teaching as well. In the substance use class, I tell them that you're not here because of the money. This is an humanity job. If you're here for the money, you will just get old, ugly, and tired. So you have to really understand that this is a calling in terms of you must have empathy, you must have care, you must have love for people to be able to do this job. So that is the things that have really helped me. I find my where I am now, being humble, being grateful, being open, and being teachable.
And how much of this do you bring to your class when you teach as an adjunct professor at SUNY Ulster? You're in the Criminal Justice and Human Services Department, right?
Yes.
So how much of this do you bring to your work?
I do what I do, I want them to be professional counselor. I do not, um, I give them, the skills that would help them to understand how this job is so important because it's an human, you're dealing with humanity. And I think a lot of my students have really been impacted with those values in terms of the teaching, the classwork, the training, for those that are even doing internship as well, understanding wearing the shoe, empathy, wearing the shoe of the person that is facing this struggle. And those skills will take you far off. Because what gives you self-care, one of the things that give you self-care is being able to really help somebody. Getting that feedback that that person is doing better is the best self-care you can ever have. So, that conversation goes on because I do take the internship class as well. So, and I do take, so we do all this conversation, we do skill building, and we address all these things. And we do sometimes just talk, case review and all.
Right. So we'll end with that talk about self-care, but we are going to end with you telling us what you do specifically about your self-care. I know that we talked about it in general strokes in the beginning. So now, specifically, what do you do for self-care? And what can you teach us?
Yes. The self-care I do, firstly, is that I have an amazing husband. Dr. George Maduro is my husband. So he keeps me always in check. We have good conversations, and he calls me out if there's something that I'm not doing right. My family give me a lot of support, and I also get support spiritually. And most importantly, I take time off work to rest, take time off, to vacation, and I also use the spiritual strength. The spiritual strength of your calling is so important to the work you do. Fulfilling purpose, being in your journey of purpose and fulfilling purpose, there's something about it that I cannot even define that gives you that internal, balance, internal care, internal peace that you cannot even understand. So when people see you, they're like, wow, it's all together in that perspective. It just works out that way.
Yes, I was wrong when I said we'll end there because I don't like to bring someone to this space who comes from another country without telling us a bit about that country. If I asked you, I know what I think about where you come from, which is where I also come from. But I want to know if it were possible for you to transpose your work. What is it about what you do that you think Nigeria would benefit from?
Um, opening up a detox, opening up a rehab, having more programs like informational programs where people can understand the history, what history plays in terms of substance use, just awareness, even in the churches and the religious body, in our communities, understanding what taking up an alcohol, taking up a drink, what does it do to you? Just that information. I think information is what we need a lot of information, dissemination in Nigeria. I'm from Isaleko, I'm from Lagos State. My father is from Isaleko, and I know what substance use is done in that community. So bringing the education at that low level, I think it will do a lot of good. And the government can support it as well, bringing up, different laws, especially the social work, encouraging individuals to go into those professions and just being community minded.
Are you thinking about engaging in that work?
Yes.
Thank you. It's needed. And so I really thank you very much for coming. And, I said before when we were talking about the work that you do and how depression relates, I talked about a course that I just recently designed. And if anybody's interested in seeing that course, just get in contact with me. They can view the what is it called, a preview, and just make a decision as to whether or not you want to have that course. It's very important for us to pay attention to these things that Ms. Abimbola Ogundimu and I have been talking about lately. And first of all, I think you and I have something similar. We both are not ashamed to use our African names, and so tell me the meaning of your name.
My name is actually Julianah is my grandmother's name that was for my baptism. But my name is Abimbola, which means that you were born when there was a lot of money, a lot of glory, a lot of richness in that household. I purposely use my names. If anybody knows me, all this is I put in my names because I always introduce myself first as a Nigerian. I'm a proud Nigerian. I just cannot take away Nigeria from wherever I've become in life.
Right. So since you're such a proud Nigerian, I look forward to bringing you and back with a Ghanaian so that we can have a discussion about jollof rice and see which is better.
Yeah,
so,
that's a very conversation
so,
itself.
right. So thank you very much for spending a part of your day here with us. I'm really grateful and look forward to seeing you again at some point.
Thank you
So
very much.
have a good evening and say hello to your husband and tell him we're talking about. Thank you.